I just wanted to share my story of how I first became aware that I wanted to change my body, that I thought I wasn't good enough. And it happened actually back in my childhood. So even though it doesn't necessarily relate to raw foods as a topic or veganism or anything like that, the reason that I want to mention it is because it kind of, I think it set the stage for the expectations that I did have when I started eating healthy. And I think a lot of my motivations when I had originally switched my diet years ago to a healthier diet, I think I changed for the wrong reasons because I just wanted to look a certain way and I had this ideal in my mind of what I wanted to look like, and I wanted to use a healthy lifestyle as a way to get there. So this story kind of takes me back to my childhood, so hopefully you're all right with talking about that. But before I get there, I wanted to ask you who are listening, have you ever had any negative thoughts about your body? So if you have thought that you didn't like what you saw, or you looked in the mirror and you just hated the way you looked, or you felt like you didn't want to go in public because of how you look, just raise your hand if you ever felt that way. Okay, so pretty much everybody. So this is, I feel like this is an issue that affects us all. So I want to go back to my childhood and where this all started for me. I remember I was walking through a mall, I think I was about 8 years old or something like that. And I remember looking, in the shop windows, they've got all the mannequins with the dresses on and everything. And I saw this mannequin wearing this beautiful black sequin dress. And I turned to my mom and I said, I love that dress, it's so beautiful, I would love to wear it. And her answer, I'm not placing any blame at all, this is what she knew. This was what she grew up with. And she said, maybe one day when you lose weight, you'll be able to fit into a dress like that. And I think that she wasn't wrong with what she said, but I think that that generation, my parents' generation, they truly thought that our worth lies in what we look like. And they didn't believe that you could wear certain things if you didn't look a certain way, or that you weren't beautiful if you had a certain type of body, that you had to fit this one image, and if you didn't, then you weren't good enough, and you didn't accept yourself, and maybe you weren't worthy of love, or maybe you weren't able to be popular or have friends, or whatever you thought you wanted in life you weren't going to be able to achieve because of how you looked. And so that's what started it all for me. That was the first time in my life where I thought, oh, maybe I should change the way I look. Maybe I should go on a diet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the way I look right now isn't good enough. And that set the stage for years of yo-yo dieting. That actually about a year later, when I was 13, I went on my first diet. And I thought if I ate less, then I could lose weight and people would love me more and I could be beautiful and then I would be worthy of all the things I wanted in my life. And I realize now that was a very wrong way to look at it, but as a young, impressionable girl, or for both males and females, I think we have a lot of pressure nowadays. And that was the first diet. And then what followed was years of trying slim fast diet shakes, doing yo-yo diets at the gym, high fat, high protein, low carb, you name it, Atkins, calorie restriction, just trying not eating because I thought that might work for a little while. I think after trying all of those different diets for so long, I realized that's not the way I wanted to go. Obviously that wasn't working for me. It ended up in years of binging, of just trying to stuff as much food in my body as I could to make up for the fact that I had deprived myself for so long, and it wasn't sustainable. That was the main thing, and that's what eventually led me to the raw food lifestyle. So I wanted to change, I wanted something different, and I wanted to feel good because I realized that it can't all come down to looking good, because that might come at a huge cost to your body and your health, or at least it did for me. And so I found the raw food lifestyle, and I thought it was the answer to all of my problems. I thought, okay, great, this is perfect. I can eat all I want, I don't have to worry about exercise, and my life will magically fall into place. All of those past behaviors of not feeling good enough, of feeling unworthy, of critiquing my body, of looking in the mirror and picking apart every little thing I didn't like about myself, I thought that would just disappear on a raw food diet because it was the magical elixir heal all, and that's what I expected. And again, I was wrong. And so that was kind of the beginning of my journey into raw foods and why I eventually found this lifestyle and decided to adopt a raw food lifestyle and start eating this way. I'm just gonna check through, I've got some notes here just because I wanna make sure that I cover everything and make sure I get to it all. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I think there are many aspects of health, and I think, I don't know, from my own personal experience, I put a lot of emphasis on the food I ate and the exercise that I did. But I rarely thought about the implications of how I felt or what I thought, the mental part of it all. And honestly, I think that plays a huge role in health, because it doesn't matter how healthy you eat, it doesn't matter how much you exercise. If you truly look in the mirror, this is why diseases like anorexia exist, because even though you are beautiful outside and you eat healthy and live healthy, when you look in the mirror, you hate what you see so much that some people stop eating, like I tried once upon a time. So I think nowadays we're able to talk about this, and I think it's a beautiful thing that we can actually admit, hey, I'm struggling, I'm not doing so well, or I have serious issues with how I feel about my body or how I look. And when I first started eating raw, that wasn't something that we talked about. So I'm really happy that this is actually something we can discuss now. This is something that it's not just okay to discuss it, but it's actually encouraged, which I think is so amazing, because I think once we actually start this discussion into body image, about how we feel, about how we look, and the fact that it's fine if those of us who are eating healthy look different from each other, that there isn't one standard that we have to adhere to, because we're all different. Our bodies react to food in different ways. We have different lifestyles, and so it's not feasible to expect that we're all going to look the exact same way, even if we are eating the same way. So it plays a huge part, the mental health aspect, and I'm really glad that we can talk about that now, because I think it's really important. And so this has kind of been my journey to finding health, not just in the foods I eat, not just in the way I exercise, but also with my mind. Because it takes a lot of years of overcoming those negative thoughts. And so that's why I asked you, have you ever thought negatively about your body? So if you can, of course you don't necessarily have to share those, but I was wondering if anybody would feel comfortable with sharing one thought you've had that, where you felt like you weren't good enough, or you felt like something was wrong with your body. If any of you would feel comfortable in sharing one of those thoughts that you've had over the years. Anybody? Yeah? Okay, so for anybody who didn't hear what she said there, that when she first found the vegan lifestyle, she was eating a lot of vegan junk food, and she felt because of the way she looked, she wasn't doing the animals justice, because she wasn't what the perfect representation of what a vegan lifestyle is supposed to be. What does that even mean anyways, and why do we hold ourselves to such unrealistic standards? That's honestly what I want to know, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today. So first off, I want to talk about this idea that once we reach a certain weight or a certain size, the belief that all of a sudden all of our problems are going to disappear and our life will become what we want it to be. So throughout my life, I had this number in my mind that once I reached 118 pounds, I don't know why I had this number. It was just something I thought, I don't know, I thought that this was the magic pill, the magic number of once I reached it, everything was gonna go right for me. So that's what I strived for years and years, and I thought, once I step on the scale and see that number, everything is going to be perfect. My relationships are going to be perfect. I'm going to be happy with my body and I'm going to love it. And that, I think, is the biggest fallacy of all, because what I've come to realize is that no number on the scale, no number on the tag of your clothing once you reach a certain size, none of those things are ever going to make you truly happy with yourself. That's something that has to come from inside. That's what I've realized. So the thought that once you get to a certain size or once you reach a certain weight, that you're going to be happy all of a sudden, it's unrealistic to think that way, because the thought patterns that got you there to begin with, they're not going to magically disappear. That's what I found, is once you reach that goal weight, once you reach that size where you're like, yes, my life is going to be perfect from this point forward, you get there and you go, what's next? Okay, how much more weight could I lose? What could I do to look better, to feel better, or whatnot? So I think that kind of the way to kind of combat that is to start to feel comfortable with where you're at. And that is so much easier said than done. especially when we have these unrealistic examples that we look up to in the media nowadays, right? With social media, these lives of perfect people living happy lives, they're traveling the world, they're eating whatever they want, and they have the perfect bodies, and everything is just wonderful. But that's not reality, and that's not real life. I used to think it was, but it's truly not. And so how do we become comfortable with who we are? How can we feel comfortable in our bodies when we maybe don't look the way we want to look? Or maybe we'll never get to that point where, these ideals that we have, this magic number that we have on the scale or the size of your clothing. So what do we do if we never reach that? Do we just live our lives unhappy? I don't think so. I mean, certainly people do, definitely, where they let that dictate their happiness and what they want to do in life. And so I think the way to overcome it is to start to feel happy with where you're at. So how do you do that? For me, it has been a journey where instead of focusing on how I look or the size of my body or the weight on the scale, it's focusing on health and getting stronger. And so what I personally chose to do, instead of trying to lose weight, I started to work out to get stronger with the intention of living a better quality life, getting outdoors, going hiking, doing things that took my mind off of the obsession with being a certain size or fitting into a, specific size pant or something like that, buying smaller clothing with the hopes that you'll one day fit into it. Has anybody here done that, by the way? Bought clothing that's too small for you? Yeah, stop doing that. So not only is it going to make you feel worse about where you currently are, but the likelihood that you're going to fit into that clothing it's probably not going to happen. I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm not saying that, weight loss is a bad thing at all, because, weight loss is often the byproduct of living a healthy lifestyle in one way or another. But I think it's far more powerful to learn to accept ourselves where we are now, instead of hoping one day I'll be happy when I can fit into that clothing that I just bought that's too small for me. That's really the magic number. Once I fit into that pair of shorts or something like that. I actually had a pair of shorts that I carried around with me for years, and I realized how ludicrous this sounds. But I had this pair of shorts thinking, I'm gonna fit into them one day. I'm gonna be small enough, I'm gonna lose weight, it's going to eventually happen. If I just think that I'm gonna get there and put the effort in, then I'll fit into that pair of shorts and I'm gonna be healthy and happy after that. But from my experience, that's rarely what happens. And there's a lot of power in taking back your life and realizing that you don't have to wait until you get anywhere to be happy with where you are. You don't have to wait until you reach a certain size. You don't have to wait until you're able to maintain any kind of specific diet. There's nothing that you have to wait for to feel comfortable in your body. And I know that's easier said than done, and I know that it's a process and it's not quite that simple, but I think that's where it all starts, is at least recognizing that, starting to believe it, starting to feel comfortable with that thought, and then essentially going from there. Just be 1 second. Okay, perfect. So the reason that I think it's not effective to believe that you'll be happy once you reach a certain size is that there's so much that makes you feel, there's so many reasons that you feel the way you do about your body. So many mental reasons, I find. So the idea that you can just fit into a certain pair of clothing or reach a certain weight and that then you'll be happy, then you'll leave behind all of your past behaviors or past expectations or anything like that. The reason it's unrealistic is because when you have these past behaviors where you feel like you're not good enough in your body and you feel like you can't go after your dreams or do the things you love, that you're being held back in life, the reason for that is because there's actually a lot of mental aspects that come along with that. Anxiety, depression. Has anyone experienced that before? Anxiety or depression from the way you look, where sometimes there's something called body dysmorphia, where you look in the mirror and you're so unsettled with what you see, you're so unhappy with what you see, the image you see looking back at you, that you don't go out of the house, right? Where it actually stops you from living your life. And that's why it's so important to tackle these issues, to talk about mental health, to bring up these struggles, to actually get them out into the open, to air them out and discuss them. Because once we actually start to do that, that's when we can actually make progress. So Specifically, what I've experienced in this regard is feeling anxious about my body, feeling like if I can't fit into my clothes properly, or if I have a bad day where I'm feeling tired and don't eat the way I wanted to eat before, then I choose not to go out of the house. And I start to feel anxious about that and put all this pressure on myself. There's no weight that I could reach, there's no size that I could reach that would take those patterns away. So I think addressing those is where it all starts. Addressing these issues and realizing that if we just stopped putting so much pressure on ourselves, maybe we could then just start to live our lives and not worry about fitting into a certain size or reaching a certain weight or anything like that. And one of the things that I have found to be most effective in that regard is finding something you love to do that has nothing to do with your body image. Finding things that you're passionate about, things that you enjoy. Does anyone have any kind of activities that take you completely out of what you look like, or obsessing about any of those things, and just takes you into a place where you feel completely free? You got something like that? What's that? Flying a drone. Yeah, exactly. Like some sort of activity where you just feel so happy that you forget where you are. It's like time and space just stops and you're completely focused in the moment. I think that truly getting into those places and feeling that way, that's part of the solution. I won't say it's the entire solution, but it's certainly a piece of the puzzle. And for me, that specific happy place is when I'm out hiking, when I spend time in nature. So when I put on my backpack, I like to do long distance hiking specifically. It's something that makes me very happy. So is there any issues with the mic? Everybody fine with the sound levels and everything like that? Yeah? Okay, brilliant. So when I get out hiking, I'm completely immersed in nature. I'm noticing the wind, I'm noticing the sun, I'm noticing the leaves on the trees and the trail in front of me, and where I place my footsteps. And it's interesting because I'm actually really feeling everything in my body, but I'm not even one time thinking about how it looks. And those kinds of activities that can completely get you out of your mind and actually into your body and feeling good, I think are really, I think they're the key. So whether you're happy flying a drone, or whether you're happy going hiking or something like that, or dancing, I find is a really, really great thing. I think getting into those places where you feel comfortable in your body and you're able to get out of your mind and into how you feel, I think that's really important, or at least I found it is on my journey. The thing with this is that I don't think there's one answer to all of this. I think that it's a process, and I'm not sure that you ever really get to a point where you feel 100% comfortable. I think that it comes down to kind of assessing how you feel in each moment and realizing that this isn't a journey of getting to some sort of end destination where, of course, you're going to be happy and healthy in your body and feel great all the time. What I've noticed with self-love and this whole issue about body image is that some days you're going to have good days and some days you're going to have bad days, and you kind of just have to roll with the punches in that way. It doesn't really come down to how you eat necessarily. Because I think you can eat a very healthy diet. I think you can eat a fruit-based diet, vegan diet, raw food diet, whatever it is. And you can still have days where you wake up and you're not happy with what you see in the mirror. And I think you can have days where you may not eat the healthiest, but you did something really great, really fun that you loved, something you really enjoyed, and feel great about yourself. And one other thing that I found to be really effective, something that really helps when it comes to getting out of your mind and getting actually into your body, is spending time with loved ones. Because something that I had to think about early on in my journey is the things that I'm thinking about myself, the things that I say to myself when no one else is looking or no one else is listening, would I actually say any of those things to someone that I love, a friend or a family member? The odds are that I likely wouldn't. I mean, I thought some pretty horrible things about myself. I'm sure I'm not alone in this. I mean, right? Everyone's nodding their heads, right? Think about it. If your friend came to you, your family, your mom, whatever, someone that you really love, think about someone you really care about and love. If they came to you and said, look, I'm feeling really down on myself. I don't like the way I look. I'm not fitting into my clothes. I'm not happy with my body image. I'm not happy with X, Y, Z, whatever it is, right? Specifically about the way you look. What would you do? Would you tell them, yeah, actually, you look terrible. You should really go on a diet? I hope you wouldn't. To start with, I really hope you wouldn't, but you probably wouldn't. I mean, realistically, the thing is when you think of it that way, when you think of a friend or a family member approaching you in that manner, you would probably offer support and tell them, hey, you're just doing the best that you can do, and you can't do any better. So I'm here for you. If you want to talk about it, we can go over it. And also, you look beautiful. You look great. You're doing just fine, right? It's something of that nature. I would hope that would be your response. At least in my personal experience, that would be my response to anybody who's struggling around me. I would feel compassion and empathy, and I would probably do whatever I could to make them feel better about themselves, because I don't want to see someone I love hurting and struggling. And what if we did the same for ourselves? What if we could have that same kind of compassion for ourselves? Has anyone ever tried anything like that? Exercises where you do self-love affirmations or anything like that? The thing that I find with those is that it can be really awkward. You're standing in the mirror going, I love you. and it can be really hard, at least from my experience. I'm like, I feel absolutely ridiculous right now doing this. Because it's so much easier to critique yourself, to hate on yourself, right? How is it possible that going, oh yeah, my thighs are really fat today, or like, oh, I can't, I look gross. How is that okay? How do we feel more comfortable with that than going, wow, I feel really confident and I love myself? It's kind of crazy that we live in a society where one is more accepted than the other, where, if you voice that you're feeling great or you think you look great, then that's seen as conceited or self-absorbed. And I think we really need to change the way we look at this topic and talk about ourselves, because I think then we can start to kind of progress as a society and move towards a place where we do love ourselves, and where we do feel comfortable, and where there's not so much judgment about each other's bodies. Especially, I notice, I'm sure this is with both men and women, but I used to have to, nowadays I stop myself, but I used to really find myself critiquing the way other people looked, which is crazy because it's none of my business. How someone else looks, that's their life, their body, they get to live their life the way they want. And I think that the fact that we critique ourselves so much allows us to critique other people, and maybe makes us feel that we have to do that, or have some sort of inclination to critique other people's bodies. Have you ever critiqued someone's body or something like that? I've seen someone walking down the street and gone, oh, I don't like that about them. Is that something? Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not a nice thing to do, but I'm sure we've had those thoughts before or said them out loud. What if instead we tried to focus on complimenting somebody else? Going, hey, I love the way your hair looks today, or hey, those shoes are really great, or something. It doesn't even have to be about how they look. It could be, wow, I love your smile. Like your smile lights up the room. Your laughter is beautiful, or something like that. Or, hey, I love the way you think. I love the discussions we have. Focusing on things that don't relate to how they look, and instead valuing people not for how they look on the outside, but for who they are on the inside. And that kind of brings me to my next point, where why do we put so much focus on how we look? Why do we cultivate the way we look more so than our passions or our character? The things that we love to do, or by spending time rather with people that we care about. Why do we spend more time focusing on how we look than on those things? And in the grand scheme of things, when we look back on our lives, are we really going to remember how we looked in certain situations? Or are we going to remember the people that we were with, the experiences that we were having, what we were doing, what made us happy? I truly think that in the end, those are the things that are really important. Those are the things that we're going to remember. Or at least I hope for myself, when I get older, that I don't look back and go, I wasted so much time critiquing my body that I could have spent living my life in a way that was actually meaningful. And that's one of the reasons that I do a lot of activism. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with who I am at all. It doesn't matter. Regardless, I'm a part of Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, and I have some friends here in the front row who also are. And the reason that I mention this isn't a plug for our organization, but you can look into it if you want. But it's not about the organization. It's about finding something that gives your life meaning, finding something that gives you a sense of purpose that has absolutely nothing to do with your personal body or how you look or your health or anything. It's literally just finding something outside of yourself. So I know that some people find that in being a parent, living selflessly, living for someone else, taking care of someone else, and putting your time and energy into that, and realizing that that's a beautiful thing. Personally, I find it through activism. So when I first became involved with Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, it lit me up inside. It made me feel like I could make a difference in this world and do something that was really meaningful. And when I'm a part of that, when I'm with other people who are like-minded, doing work that I feel is meaningful, I'm not thinking about my body. I'm I'm not thinking about what it looks like. I don't care, it doesn't matter, because I found something that is so much more important than that. I know that I'm able to make a difference. And so I think, in addition to finding things that you just love to do as pastimes, like going hiking for me, or working out in the gym, or I don't know, playing music or something like that, going dancing, I don't know, whatever makes you happy. I think that finding something that gives your life meaning is another tool that you can use to get out of your head and into your body. Or just completely remove that from the equation altogether, where your body doesn't become the focal point of your life, but finding purpose in giving back does. And that can be in so many different ways. That can be in your local community, that can be by being a parent, that can be like with what I do, activism, basically anything. There's so many different options. So I hope that that was able to provide you with some solutions to this. I know it is a very multifaceted issue. I know that it's not as simple as, oh yeah, just stop thinking about your body and go for a hike. It's obviously much more in depth than that. It's something that takes years to kind of conquer, and I think it's honestly an ongoing journey. It's not something that you just wake up one day and have a great relationship with your body. And how this all relates to raw food, I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent and separated a bit from diet and everything like that. But what I've found is that nowadays I'm able to feel so much more comfortable with my diet and my lifestyle now that I'm not focusing on what I look like. In the beginning of my raw food lifestyle, I really felt like I had to be absolutely perfect. I never shared any of these struggles. I never talked about how some days I thought I was so disgusting that I didn't want to go outside. I was so insecure that I didn't want other people to look at me. I never spoke about those things because I truly thought that I could never inspire people unless I was perfect. It's crazy because looking back now, I realize how ridiculous that was, but I really actually thought that if I didn't have visible six-pack abs, that people would not take me seriously. That I couldn't be an inspiration, that I couldn't share about healthy lifestyle, because what do I know about health if I don't even look the part? I think it goes back to something that Rebecca said there, right? Where if you feel like you're not, if you feel like you don't look good enough to be an advocate for the lifestyle, who's going to actually listen to what you have to say? And I realize now that that's just I don't want to swear, I'm trying to tone down the language, but that's a bunch of bull. It's complete nonsense. I realize now that I have more power to inspire people when I'm actually real and authentic, and I talk about the fact that I've struggled my whole life with my body image. And even now I still sometimes struggle, where I just don't feel good enough, and I'm able to catch myself, but it is like a daily, sometimes an hourly thing where I have to go, why do I feel disgusting? Is there actually any merit in how I feel? And why am I so mean to myself? I mean, I'm getting a little deep here, but truly, when you feel that way, if you don't catch yourself and you just go down this rabbit hole, this spiral into hating yourself so deeply, we can turn it around. And I know it takes a lot of work. It's not easy, or else everyone would be doing it, right? We wouldn't go on these yo-yo diets. We wouldn't do these extreme things to try to reach this unrealistic ideal. And I also think we wouldn't push ourselves so far when it comes to our diet. Obviously, I'm an ethical vegan. I really believe in veganism. I think it's an amazing thing, and it's completely changed my life. And so has raw foods. I have lived a raw food lifestyle for a very long time. But when I moved to Denmark a couple of years ago, I wasn't able to maintain it. I felt so good for so long, and it was so easy, and I was starting to get in the flow of wow, I feel really good in my body. I can start to love it now because I've reach a certain size and everything, that program you have in your mind. And I moved to Denmark, and all of a sudden, what was so easy and effortless for me wasn't anymore. I actually couldn't maintain a raw food lifestyle because it's genuinely challenging there. I struggled for a long time, and all of those past patterns came up again. And that's why I've said throughout this talk that just living a healthy lifestyle, eating a certain diet is not going to take those patterns away. Because if you then find yourself in some sort of situation where you're not able to eat or live as healthily as you have been, oh, you all right? Okay, all right, we're saved. Saved by the apple. I look a lot different than that when I trip. It's never that pretty. So yeah, what I was saying there is that I thought I was at a good place. I thought, yeah, I've got this self-love thing down. I feel really good about my body. And then the minute I wasn't able to live the healthy lifestyle that I'd become accustomed to, all of those behaviors came back. All of that self-loathing, that not feeling good enough. Why can't I maintain this diet? No one's going to take me seriously anymore. I can't be an inspiration. Why am I even creating videos? I actually got to the point where I had to leave social media for 6 or 7 months after creating, I created over 600 videos on YouTube, and I had to stop thinking that, or I had to stop, thinking that, that no one was going to watch my content anymore because I wasn't perfect. But what I want to say is there is no perfection. There's no such thing. The fact that every one of you were kind of nodding along saying like, yep, I've got body image issues. Yep, I've thought terrible things about myself. That just goes to show that we are all dealing with these same issues. And I think that not only do we have to be compassionate with ourselves and learn to love and appreciate our bodies the way they are, but I think we also have to learn to be compassionate towards other people, right? Because if we're so nasty to ourselves, if we're so mean to ourselves and think these things about our own bodies, it's so much easier to critique others. But you never know what other people are going through. The fact that we've all had our body image issues here. What if someone was having a terrible day, right? What if you could say something to them, something nice to them that could make their day better, right? And improve their day, and then as a byproduct, make you feel better as well. So we're about a half an hour in, and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on when in relation to body image and my own personal story. I kind of wanted to give a little bit of time for questions, and then if there's no questions, I can go back to talking about this, but I don't just want to stand here and talk to you the whole time because I don't have this all figured out. I really don't. It's literally an everyday journey. I just flew from Denmark the other day, and I was really bloated from being on a plane. And I still notice those same behaviors and tendencies coming back going, oh, I need to exercise double now to make up for the fact that I'm bloated. I gotta negate this somehow. I've got to put in double the work because I was bad and ate a food that I wasn't supposed to, you know? So it's, yeah, I mean, I'm not here to tell you that I've got this all figured out. I think I have some idea for how we can eventually get to a place where we feel comfortable with our bodies, but I don't know if I'm ever gonna get there. And so I would love to hear from you. I'd love to take any questions you have, or just have some sort of discussion where we can talk about this and we can hopefully maybe inspire each other, encourage each other to eventually get to a place where we feel comfortable with ourselves and we don't have to judge ourselves based on our diet or the way we look. That's really what I'm hoping for here. So is there a microphone or anything like that we can pass around? I think there was. There was, okay. I'm going to find a microphone, just 1 second here. Do you guys have a mic that we can pass off to them? Okay, brilliant. Okay, cool. And then we can talk about this because I really want to talk to you guys. I want to hear about your struggles if you feel comfortable sharing them. Because I think we've got a wide variety of people, men and women, different body types, different ages, and I think that it would be really valuable to hear each other's experiences so we can maybe learn from them. And then realize also these negative things we think about ourselves, they're wrong. I'm not trying to say like you're wrong, but a lot of the things we feel when it's this negative body image stuff, it's not true. It's a lie based on conditioning, social media, what we see in print media, models, things like that, these expectations that we have. And I think a lot of the things I've thought about myself and a lot of the things that you've thought about yourself, it's just simply not true. I'm sure you have your unique gifts and talents and you're an amazing person. And we can focus on those things. We don't have to focus on how we look. So, okay, here we go. We've got the mic, just gonna pass it around. If anyone has a question or something, or it doesn't have to be a question for me. It could be something that you wanna bring up, a story that you wanna share, anything.
Hi, my name is Doreen. Sorry, my name is Doreen.
Hey.
And I feel when I eat oily foods, like I try not to eat processed and whole food, plant-based.
Right.
It makes me feel better. But when I eat oily foods, I feel like there's like an addiction to continue to eating oily foods.
Right.
And I can't stop that. So I find myself like going like to Plant Power, like say twice a week or 3 times a week when I really don't
Right.
really
When
like
it doesn't
to
make
go
you
to
feel
Plant
good.
Power. But it's like this like addiction, I think, for oil or something. I don't
Right.
know what. I don't know if you can elaborate on that. That would be great.
Yeah, so just, did everybody hear that? Just in case, okay. So what she was mentioning, sorry, what's your name again? Doreen, okay. So what Doreen was mentioning was that when she finds herself eating oily foods, it finds that it very quickly becomes an addiction, where she finds herself going to Plant Power, which is somewhere I went the other day, and felt immediately guilty after eating that food. So I'm with you 100% there, even though I shouldn't have felt guilty, but I did. So when you find yourself eating that food, you find that it becomes an addiction. You go back for that food again and again and again. And can we just elaborate on that quickly? How do you feel after you eat it? Do you feel any kind of negative body image issues coming up, like you shouldn't be eating it or anything like that?
When I'm eating it, I don't really feel that, but afterwards,
Afterwards.
I feel heavy, bogged down,
Right.
Like mucusy things happen.
Right. You have bodily
otherwise
reactions.
wouldn't. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Physical.
Right, so that's actually one of the hardest things to deal with. So that's kind of a multifaceted thing I'm gonna touch on here. So first off, yes, of course, eating oily fast food is addictive. There's no doubt about it. What I found is that, like you said, the more you eat, the more you crave, and you've got to stop that cycle if you do want to eat healthy and feel better. But I think that feeling self-loathing after eating that kind of food is not the answer, because a lot of the times that's just going to make you feel worse about yourself, and when you feel worse about yourself, you're going to go back to that food because it's going to feel like you're kind of self-medicating. You're going to try to temporarily cover up those emotions, because truly, like the reality is you can't experience really intense emotions while you're digesting a really heavy, greasy meal at the same time. That's why everybody emotionally eats, because it's comforting, right? But if you don't want to, if you truly just don't want to eat that way, my suggestion would be, after you're finished eating that way and you're starting to feel like the remorse, I shouldn't have eaten those foods, it's not going to make me feel good, or it's not going to give me the body I want, or any of those things, you know, those activities that I was talking about where you kind of get out of your mind and into your body something that makes you feel happy, do that right after. It's not going to be the only solution, but at least it's going to bring you to a place where you feel better about yourself. That has nothing to do with food, that has nothing to do with your body. But yeah, absolutely, oily food is so addictive, and I'm right there with you. I think we've all experienced it. Has anybody eaten something that you know is not good for you, that's going to make you feel like crap, and then gone back for more afterwards?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so yeah, you're not alone in that. I mean, not that that makes you feel any better necessarily,
I
but
just wanted to know how to break the cycle.
How to break that cycle.
That's how to do it. Is to
Yeah.
go do something fun that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with food.
Nothing to do with your body.
It could be
Yeah.
socializing. It could be whatever.
yeah, exactly, because
Hiking. It could be.
right. After you eat that food and you start to feel down on yourself, if you then continue that pattern, you've got to break it in some way. And you could break it by waking up the next morning and go, you know what, I'm going to have a smoothie and I'm not going to eat that same way. But that can be really hard, I find, when you have that food in your system already and you're already not feeling good, you want to have it again. It's like when you have a hangover from drinking alcohol, the next morning, you're probably just going to want to go to McDonald's or something. You're not going to feel like having a almond milk strawberry smoothie, you know, even though that would be better for you. So I think, for one, realizing, what I want to get to here is that when you're eating that food, acknowledging that you're eating it, it is the way it is, you're making this decision right now, you cannot change it, and you have to accept how you're going to feel afterwards. So that is one thing I found, is just being really mindful when you're eating and understanding, like, this food's probably going to make me feel like shit, but right now, this is what I want, I'm going to eat it, and that's it. Kind of breaking that pattern of addiction and realizing, this food is not off limits. I'm not going to stop myself from eating it next time. Next meal, I can eat it again if I want to. I'm giving myself that choice, and then the next meal comes around and you can choose, how do I want to feel after eating this specific food? Because one of the things I found is that when we put things off limit, when we say, I cannot eat that food ever again, then you're going to start thinking about it and go, oh, you know, I'd really love to have that food that I said I couldn't have. I've done that before. I'm a total food addict, binge eater. I understand it completely, but I think a lot of that comes down to not putting foods off limits and realizing that you have a choice at every meal as to what you're going to eat and how you're going to feel after. So yeah, number one, going out and doing some sort of activity that's going to take you completely away from food or thinking about your body. And then number two, becoming conscious of how you feel when you're eating, choosing to eat that meal, enjoying it, not feeling any guilt, and understanding, probably not going to make me feel my best, but this is what I need right now for whatever reason, whether it's emotional comfort or I just feel like spending time with my friends and eating at Plant Power or whatever else. And then realizing that you can make a different decision next meal. You don't have to give in to these addictions. It doesn't have to become a cycle.
So what I'm getting is, just to be clear, I am eating right now for pleasure, or I am eating now for health.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
be good with it.
Yeah.
And
Either
then the
way,
next choice.
one is not, I'm not, okay, in my opinion, one is better than the other. But I'm not, when you're in that moment, you can't say, what I'm eating right now is terrible, I'm doing a really bad thing, because you're just gonna make yourself feel worse. If you're eating that food, you're eating it, you might as well enjoy it. And then move on afterwards and be able to feel better by eating something that is maybe more in line with the choices that you want to make. Because if you punish yourself every time you do something you don't want to do or eat something you don't want to eat, it's just going to continue the cycle of feeling terrible about your body, of self-loathing. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to make you feel worse. And that's something that I feel like we have to break, because that food choice is not bad or good, but what you continue to do afterwards and how you feel about yourself afterwards is kind of what dictates whether it's bad or good, right? So hopefully that answered the question. Anyone else? Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. I guess I have a lot to say on the subject. It's kind of like a loaded bag of, mixed bag or whatever.
Yeah, I figured it
But
would
it's
be.
like a little devil running around in my head, and it's almost like it's almost kind of like a type of narcissism because it's like I tell myself, okay, I'm gonna go on the diet, and I'm gonna go like full bore. You know what I mean? Because I'm setting such a high standard.
Right.
And then so what that does is then I just pig out. You know what I mean? And then it's like a cycle.
Right. So you're basically setting yourself up for failure from the beginning by creating this ultimate diet that you're going to do, and you're going to maintain it always forever, and you're going to be absolutely perfect, right? And then as soon as you fall off, then it just all goes down the tube. Is that kind of what you mean?
Well, it's like a love-hate relationship. It's up and down. You know what I
Right,
mean?
there's
It
no
goes back
balance
and
in it.
forth. Yeah, so it's like, I think really the key, like from what I contemplate about it, which I haven't really practiced yet, but is like, what I've heard is like, I guess probably the best is just to make like small, realistic goals that are actually achievable, and then
Right.
slowly ease into it probably is the best.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I hope I'm not interrupting you, but absolutely, I agree. If you set yourself up for like, let's say, you're wanting to make a change in your lifestyle. I want to lose this amount of weight, or I'm going to eat fruit for breakfast every day, or like go on this perfect diet, eat this perfect amount of calories, or whatever else. And then what happens if one day you can't maintain that? Then what?
Yeah,
Right?
it's like too unrealistic or whatever.
Right.
It's like you
Instead of making
you beat up
small-
on yourself or whatever, yeah.
Right.
Because you're setting the bar so high.
Exactly. You're setting the bar too high for anybody to be able to achieve it. So yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Small incremental changes that are actually feasible. If you decide you want to feel better through exercise, don't start by going to the gym 2 hours a day. Start with 15 minutes. How do you feel after that? Can you maintain that? Great. Then start to move it up again and again until you get to a point that's actually fully sustainable. And then also, what I want to kind of elaborate on what you're saying is that then you feel good about yourself. Then each day is like a little bit of reward, like, hey, I achieved my goal today. Actually, I feel better mentally and physically than I did yesterday. Instead of setting the bar so high that you can't reach it and then falling down and feeling like a failure, it actually does the exact opposite.
Yeah, and those small goals, you got to make them smaller because you think it's small. It's like, okay, 10 minutes of stretching a day.
Right.
It's actually a big goal. I mean, try it out. I mean, I still haven't done it. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like,
right.
So just like start small, I guess, is my input.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah. Anybody else want to share anything, ask anything? Oh, there's somebody back there. Yeah. There's also another girl. I'm not sure where she went, but maybe she'll come back.
I guess what I have to share is kind of like more in alignment with what the two things were, because it hit home for me when I realized this was kind of, I guess what we can call emotional cravings or emotional eating. And what I have found through just my sort of journeys of ups and downs is, for me, when I'm able to be present and really be like, if I set those high expectations, I know it's coming from a place of intention, or is that just me trying to like
Right.
skyrocket
Right.
and just trying to achieve something more than I should? And when I'm fully present with my intention, whether it is going to plant foods or having that cheat or treat meals, however you want to put it, so I really resonate with what you're saying. It's like fully enjoy it, be
Right.
present with that moment, and then even after you may feel the effects, if you want to put it that way, of eating something like that, being present with it, so you recognize, or so I'm able to recognize, like noticing how I feel after. Was that worth it, and is that aligned with my intention I want to have tomorrow?
Right.
Let alone 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever the goal is. But as long as I have that, I have found that to be super, super helpful for me.
Right.
So I just kind of wanted to add on to
Yeah.
that to see if that would help anybody else. Because it is very much like an emotional sort of thing that we are
Yeah.
dealing with when we kind of go through these journeys, and as we transition through all these things, emotional memories or whatever we want to call it, come to surface because they've been
Right.
suppressed. And so when we have the opportunity, I kind of like to view it that way, is that my intention is to give myself the opportunity to heal, if we want to put it that way, from things that we've suppressed for time and time
Years.
and time again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So having that opportunity to do that and be really present and be really, whether you want to be, if you want to be forgiving for yourself for having that meal, like that's okay.
Right.
And if you feel like it's going to stir up an emotional sort of thing, like being okay with that. and knowing that tomorrow is another day or the next meal is another meal. And it's like, that's the journey, and that there's always a lesson in it so long our presence is there. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps anybody else, but that seemed to help me.
Brilliant. I want to say that I absolutely agree with that. The thing is, if you're eating, this brings us back to the treat or cheat meal. If you're eating something that you know is not going to necessarily make you feel good, feeling bad about yourself or being hard on yourself is not going to improve the situation at all. Actually, it's probably just going to make it worse. So I think I absolutely agree in being forgiving and understanding that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and maybe it's not even a mistake. Maybe you're having a really hard day emotionally, and actually that's just what you need to make yourself feel better, and there's no shame in that. I really hate in the raw food movement this idea that like if you're not perfect, you're not reaching this certain standard, then you're not good enough. In my opinion, there's no shame in comforting yourself when you need it, and sometimes what you need to do is have a certain food to feel that way. So yeah, that's absolutely, I think that's just part of the journey. Even if it doesn't make you feel your best afterwards, I think if you can have forgiveness and move on from that and not feel judgment towards yourself, it makes it so much easier to eat healthy and live healthy after that point, definitely. Does anyone else have anything else that they want to add? Or, oh yeah, okay, perfect. Did they take it away? I'm not sure, just 1 second, she may have. Oh, hey, can I get that back? Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, the mic, yeah. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for sharing, guys. Honestly, I love hearing what you think about this and discussing this topic, because this isn't just like me standing up and talking to you. I think your experiences are really valid, so I really appreciate it.
Hi. Okay,
Hey.
you can hear. Thank you so much for bringing up this topic. I think in a lot of different variations, we're all feeling it. And, I was thinking that heavy meal that we're not used to, like transitioning, going back and forth between different levels of nutrients or fat and all that. My newest thing I've learned is spiralized carrots with cabbage. There seems to be that's a great way to like help me transition back. Not that we need to feel bad or anything.
Right.
That helps me make me feel less guilty, or it's like, I'm experiencing this and I can do my cabbage.
Right.
And it's funny, I don't necessarily think it's cabbage, I'm sure is helping a lot, but it's the crunchiness of the food. It's the texture of the food. It's helping as it goes through. But more importantly, I had a great experience. I'm involved in singing, sometimes a cappella, and I go watch other groups all the time, and sometimes there's festivals or concerts. And I was able to snap out of my body conscious, problems when I would see these amazing women or men and women on stage who didn't have that perfect, ideal, like that raw food body, right?
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And they were very sensual and having fun, and they looked like they were completely comfortable in their body.
Right.
And it made me realize, what am I doing? This is what living is being happy and feeling good about yourself. And finding other examples like that, I think, is something that might help us.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, because it's obviously something, if they're singing, they're very passionate about. They're probably so focused in that moment on what they're doing that everything else just kind of falls away. And I think it's not going to be singing for everybody, but yeah, finding that place, then you don't even realize like, my body, I don't care about what it looks like right now. It's irrelevant. I want to go back to what you said there, where you said, were you talking about after you have maybe like a cheat or treat meal or something like that, then you eat those carrots?
The day after.
The day after, okay.
Or afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So,
or for several days after.
Okay, perfect. So that's something I want to mention is that, first off, I'm not here to say you should be eating any one thing. Obviously, I'm an ethical vegan. I advocate for that. But however, beyond that, I don't think you should feel guilty about anything you eat. If that's the way that makes you feel good and that's what you want to eat, go for it. It's your life. But like she mentioned, sorry, what was your name? Eva, okay, perfect. So what Eva mentioned there about having kind of a food that you can go to if you have eaten something that doesn't make you feel good, something that's going to kind of bring back those triggers for you or something like that, is a really good idea. I actually do something very similar where I have watermelon juice. I find makes me feel just so hydrated and alive and really good, so that if I've had something the day before that like doesn't make me feel good, and I've kind of gone through that process of forgiving myself or understanding like this is what I needed to eat in that time and it's absolutely fine, no judgment. but then I can move on. And when I have watermelon juice, I just feel so good. And actually, I find that I appreciate that food, that healthy food, so much more after I've had something that doesn't make me feel so great, because then I go, oh yeah, this is how I want to feel. This is it. This is the kind of energy and vitality I want to have on a daily basis. So yeah, that's a great point, definitely. Is there anybody else that wanted to share anything? Yeah.
I have a confession.
Okay, go for it.
So, all of us, the speakers and the crew for the festival last night, we all had a dinner.
Yep.
And so last night before the dinner, I was in my hotel room and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and we were about to leave, and I looked at myself and I just said out loud in front of my partner, look at me. I have no business being a speaker at a fruit festival. I have no business being around with this peer class. I don't look the part. I don't feel the part. So I had those moments of doubt, and my partner turned to me. He's like, well, you know what? We don't have to go. And I thought about it, and I really did think about it. And I considered, wow, it would be so easy just to stay and hide in my little house and just, hide away from the world and in my own insecurities and self-doubt. And I shrugged my shoulders and just was like, you know what? F it. Let's just go.
Yeah.
It'll be what it is. And I was actually shocked and appalled when I come to the dinner and nobody is looking at me, like my body. They're saying, wow, I heard your story and that's so inspiring.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm actually more than my body.
Isn't
and
that
it was not
incredible?
but it's like that conditioning
Yeah.
of just like, you're not enough. You have to be perfect, especially if you're a woman. You have to have this model-esque body, and especially if you're like in the fruitarian or raw or vegan, it's like you have to look this particular way. And I had that moment last night, and I legit had it, and it was like, what am I even doing? Like I'm not worthy of inspiring anybody. And then it was so cool to even be taught by this group already last night and even today. Just no, it's okay. You're on your journey. You are where you are, and that's okay.
Right.
And everyone still has something to contribute, no matter where you are on your journey.
Right.
So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. For anyone who doesn't know, by the way, yes, absolutely 100% you are more than your body. And number two, this girl is incredible, okay? She has gone through, I'm not gonna, get into it, it's her story, it's her business, but she has gone through some pretty challenging, rough times that I think most people would have struggled through a lot. And the fact that you're here and you're able to share that with people is incredible. It really, really is. And yeah, we are so much more than our bodies. And no one was there looking at anybody's bodies last night. We had a dinner, before the event here, and I think everybody was just enjoying each other's company. It never once occurred to me to think like, that person, I think differently about them because of the way they look. Never even crossed my mind. So yeah, maybe that's something to think of. Do we, when you're spending time with your friends and family, do you value them for how they look? Or do you think about like, that person's just a really great supportive friend, or I have really a lot of fun with that person, or wow, this family member has always been there for me. Maybe, I think that's a good place to start. And where do you seek value in those that you love? Does it have to do with how they look, truly? Like, does anyone here actually value people in their lives only because of how they look? I mean, I hope not. But no, I don't think we do. The thing is that there's so much more to us than that. Actually, I would say that the body is really such a small thing when it comes down to it. We are primarily the things that we do, the way that we treat people, the choices that we choose to make, and that matters so much more, because that's how we're able to have an impact on the world. That's how we're able to have an impact on other people, and that's really what that dictates our lives. I don't think, at the end of the day, kind of where I want to leave this off, unless someone else has something else to say, is, one day when we're not here anymore, when we die, I don't think anyone's gonna go, wow, you know what, Susie, she was great, but she was a size 2, and that's what really mattered about her. Like, no one's gonna remember that. They're gonna think, wow, she was a really supportive friend, or wow, what she did for the environment or the animals, or whatever it is, however she contributed to her community, or he, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That rarely does anyone remember, from all the the people who have made an impact in this country, in this world, in history. I don't think anyone's really ever focused on what their body looked like. It was what contribution they made in the world, and that is far more important than what we look like. obviously that's easier said than done, you know, to feel that way, because we have to confront ourselves on a daily basis with how we look, and we feel like other people are probably looking at us and obsessing with us, or obsessing about how we look, but really I think it's all in here. It's all us. I think the vast majority of people don't care about how you look or how I look, because they're more focused on their own personal experience in life. So, did you have something that you wanted to say before? Yeah, you wanted to mention it? You can pass it on.
Hi, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I've been following your YouTube channel for many years.
Oh, cool.
And back when I first went vegan, I used to watch your videos all the time. And
Cool.
my diet, it's always pretty much vegan, but it goes up and down as far as how healthy it is. And now coming to this event, I'm re-inspired to make my health like a priority. So thank you
Awesome.
for showing up. And
Thank you.
yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, when I first started my YouTube channel, I was so afraid. I would have never talked about this. I would have never admitted that I thought I was disgusting or I hated my body or anything like that. And I'm so glad that we've progressed past that, because, yeah, I mean, a lot of my content was actually based around that. I have to show people how perfect my lifestyle is so that they can be inspired. When it's, to me now, that's so backwards. Instead, I would rather talk about, these are the ways I'm struggling, and maybe we can work through it together, because to me that is, at least in my opinion, it's so much more relatable now, because it's real. No one is perfect. No one is, Instagram looks like it, but no one is perfect. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that people like you actually found value in that content, because I was actually really struggling a lot and I never told anybody. So it's kind of refreshing just to be able to say, like, yeah, I'm not sure if I love my body yet, but I'm certainly trying, and it's a journey, it's a process, and maybe one day I'll get there, maybe not, but I'm really enjoying the whole process of it all.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Is there anything else? We're kind of coming to a close now, but if anyone has something they want to mention, something this time.
Hey everybody, I just had kind of like an interesting side note, just kind of like thinking about what everybody's talking about and everything, and it's kind of interesting to me, like, because we're all talking about body image and stuff and how it's so important, but when is the time when it just usually absolutely doesn't mean anything? And I was thinking, well, we all dream all the time, and usually like when you're dreaming, like, you're not really aware of your body, you know what I mean? And
Very
it's
much
like
so.
just a good place. And also I was just kind of contemplating, like, the emphasis is not really about like body awareness for what I'm hearing. It's more like finding like what you're passionate about,
Right.
because your body's not the determining factor for your spiritual fulfillment or whatever.
Yeah,
And like in the dreams, you find out what you're passionate about too.
right. Yeah, that is interesting.
And
Very
then like also if you eat like blue-green algae and spirulina and I think like a few different things, it'll help you dream.
Does it actually?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps your like dream recall and stuff.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. That's something I've never thought about before, but I dream a lot and I have very vivid dreams, and I don't remember what my body looked like in any of them.
Yeah, it's
'cause it
just an
didn't matter.
interesting thing I was thinking about while you guys were talking.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah. Yeah, brilliant. I love everything you guys have shared. Thank you so much for being willing to talk about this and listen to me talk about it as well. It's something that I'm really passionate about now, and I really think that I want to share more about this and talk about this issue and get it out into the open and realize that we're all the same, because we're all struggling with this, and hopefully one day we can all get to a place where we feel comfortable and don't have any judgment towards ourselves or anybody else. Because honestly, that's what really feels good. The days where I wasn't thinking about my body, and the days where I was able to have the most fun and just live life and enjoy it, and yeah, my body didn't matter at all. So thanks so much, guys, for listening to this and sharing your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.